So today I'll be taking the Air 9 RDO out on the trail. I'm going to wear my GoPro on my chest and talk through what it's like switching over to a hardtail again after being on full suspension for so long, and then just talk about the bike itself, how it rides, and what I think about it. So today is the second day of riding this bike for me. A couple days ago I took it out for about 2.5 hours, and so today's going to be all single track. I'm actually going to do my time trial loop, one of them, and just kind of get the bike going at race pace and see how I like it. So let's talk about switching over to a hardtail again. It's a pretty big adjustment for me, actually. And what's interesting is today I feel better than I did that first day out. You know, when I take my cyclocross bike out here on the trails, I expect it to be bumpy. With a mountain bike, I kind of have to get into my brain that I still have to unweight the saddle a little bit more than I'm used to, and so it's quite a bit of an adjustment. Now I will say that this is probably one of the smoothest riding hardtails I've ever ridden. Like I said in one of my opening videos of this bike, I owned an Air 9 a few years ago, Air 9 RDO, and it was just seemed more harsh. I think Niner has done a good job of making this frame a little bit more compliant. So it's very smooth, and also the head angle on this bike is about a degree slacker than my RKT9, so this is a 70. And what's interesting, and I've got to do some more research on this, but this fork, the stanchion tubes measured out to 110. Because of a little bit longer stanchion tubes, you know, a little bit longer axle to crown, and the slacker head angle, the bike is very stable for a hardtail. It flows really well. So even though it's an adjustment getting back on a hardtail, this bike feels really good. I mean, if I were going to make a commitment and go back to a hardtail, this bike would definitely be on my short list. So the handlebars on this bike are pretty wide, 780. For cross country, even though I like wide bars, I probably would trim out about 15 millimeters on each side for cross country, because we have some pretty tight trees on some of our courses. But for my trail bike, I think 780 is good, but this bike I'd go shorter just a little bit. It's not my bike, so I can't cut them down, but that's what I would do. Also, this bike has a 90 millimeter stem. I personally would go with an 80, maybe even a 70, because of my height, and it would make the bike handle a little bit better. I have an 80 on my RKT9, so, but that bike has a longer or shorter top tube than this one, so that's why I probably go with a 70 on this bike. Climbing on this bike is about as good as it gets for a cross-country bike. I mean, obviously being a hardtail, just every bit of power you put to the pedals makes the bike go. Also, it's real easy just to hit this lockout with a fork and stand up, and you're fully rigid, no bobbing at all. So really good climbing bike. Probably one of the biggest benefits of a hardtail is the climbing. Not only because it's stiff, but also because it's light. All right, I'm gonna keep warming up, and then we're gonna hit the time trial loop, and I'll report back what this bike is like at full-on race pace. All right, rolling up to the start of my time trial loop. Just a disclaimer, this is not my season for riding fast. This is my off season, but I have done this loop in the past few weeks, so it'll give me a decent baseline. I'm not gonna PR this thing by any means, but let's see what this race rocket can do. thing's smooth for a hardtail. Oh, dude, right in the middle of that time trial, I had a piece of a weed or a bug go in the back of my throat. Oh, I can't use that time. I did stop the stopwatch as I was hurling on the side of the trail, literally. Oh, that was miserable. Oh. Well, even though the time wasn't something I could use, the bike still felt really good. I think this is the funnest hardtail cross-country bike I've ever ridden. It's incredibly smooth for a hardtail. Still a little bit of an adjustment from full suspension, but I really enjoyed that actually. More so than I did the first day I took this bike out. So really, hardtail cross-country and full suspension cross-country, a lot of it is just your riding style. You've got to adjust it. You've got to get out of the saddle more. So definitely I think my legs would be more tired at the end of a cross-country race on a hardtail because of all the work they have to do to absorb the bumps. But it's a fun bike to ride. Shifting on the bike felt great. Like I said in the opening video, this is a 3-star build, and both shifting and braking felt great. I mean, you just honestly couldn't really ask for any better performance out of the brakes and drivetrain. Just spot on. You know, I actually like the wider bars. Maybe I'd just throw on a little bit shorter stem and call it a day and not trim the bars down if it were my bike. You really get used to those as well. So my RKT9 bars, I think they're like 730 to 740 around there. So yeah. So that's I guess that's gonna wrap it up for today. First ride. And by the way, I didn't use the lockout on the fork too much on that trail. The type of riding I did on that trail just didn't require it. So I just left it open the whole time. And you can adjust the open setting of this fork. So yeah, first hard day of riding on this bike has turned out to be really good. I like this bike a lot. So any questions or comments, as always, leave them below. Thanks for watching.